The traditional Latin Mass has returned to the Vatican, to St. Peter's Basilica. And the question is, for those of you that are traditional Catholics who love the traditional Latin Mass, the question is, are we back? What do we mean by are we back? Are we in the ascendance? Are we back to 1958? No, that's never going to happen. Are we back to 1962? No, that's also not going to happen. Are we back to Summorum Pontificum under Pope Benedict XVI, where every priest had the permission to celebrate the traditional Latin Mass? No, we're not there. We're still living under the glass ceiling of Traditionis Custodes, with restriction on the traditional Latin Mass. But we did see Cardinal Burke celebrate the traditional Latin Mass over the weekend. And the pictures are stunning. We also had a cardinal, a 97-year-old cardinal in attendance, and he did an exorcism blessing over St. Peter's Basilica. This in the aftermath of the Pachamama idol scandal, in the aftermath of certain pilgrimages, of certain ideologies that question the historic tradition of the church on moral matters. We also had that horrible scenario of the man who went up on the high altar and dropped his pants and urinated or tried to urinate on the altar, all these things. So it's good to see tradition back. It's also good to see a 97-year-old cardinal expelling what he calls the dragon, Satan, from St. Peter's Basilica, and I'll show a clip from that. I want to show you some of these pictures here from EWTN. There's Cardinal Burke, and let me make sure. Yeah, here we go. Whoops. I want to pause on this picture. This was on EWTN. Young man, his wife, young baby. This is the future of Catholicism. And when I ask the question, are we back? Are we back? We will be back. Right now, we're getting there. But when you look at these photos, and there's lots of photos, you see all kinds of people, every skin tone, men, women, gray hair, young people, babies. Everybody's there. Everybody's there. And the reason this is a big win, and I know there's going to be a bunch of people that are cynical about this, and they're increasingly cynical about Pope Leo, and I've been sharing thoughts on that as well. I think that the reason this is so important is no other demographic or group or collection of people in the Catholic space, in the Catholic Church, are as organized, passionate, zealous than the people, the 2,000 to 5,000 people, those are the numbers I've heard, that showed up for the traditional Latin Mass celebrated by Cardinal Burke over the weekend. The LMNOP crowd, the charismatic, any group, they don't have this momentum. They don't have this movement. And when you think about it, those who love the traditional Latin Mass, you know, there's Cardinal Burke and Cardinal Sarah, but there's not a mechanism. There's not a hierarchy. There's really nothing that is promoting it or seeking to sustain it. And yet it keeps rolling on and growing. Even after Traditionis Custodes, there is growth, there is interest. It's not going away. And all weekend, I could only think to myself, that night or the next day, Pope Leo is alone. He sees this, he hears about it, he sees the pictures. What does Pope Leo think? If you are at the Vatican, if you're in the Roman Curia, if you're a cardinal, if you're the Pope, you see these acts of faith, this momentum, this movement, all kinds of people. Here's everyone receiving on the tongue. Cardinal Burke. Beautiful picture of the consecration ad orientem in St. Peter's at the altar of the chair. You see these pictures. You look at the young people. You look at the zeal. How can you deny it? Even more so, how can you say this is just a bunch of people politicizing liturgy? These people are in bad faith. These people are schismatic. They're at Mass with a Roman cardinal in St. Peter's Basilica, venerating the chair of St. Peter. All of the accusations of being schismatic or sedevacantist or breaking off from the Pope, breaking off from Rome, all of these things by this Mass are demonstrated to be false. I think in that sense, symbolically, we are back. And we're going to talk about that today. Now, I have not been with you. Here it comes. I have not been on the mic for well over a week, coming up on 2 weeks. And you'll remember over 2 weeks ago, I started kind of losing my voice. And then on the show after that, I was coughing throughout, and I have had pneumonia. And I've been pretty sick, very sick, and not doing well. And I can already feel my voice and my lungs sort of straining a little bit. So we'll see how long we can go. But I appreciate your prayers. I appreciate your patience. I think this might be the longest I've ever gone in maybe 10 years of not doing podcasts and live videos. So I've been that sick and feverish and in bed and, pardon me, trying to recover. So if you've been wondering, where has Marshall been? Why isn't he doing anything? I've been in bed. I've been in bed reading, playing digital chess, and trying to get stronger. One of the books that I've been reading is Roberto de Mattei's St. Pius V. I've read the book before, and I found it, and I started reading it again. And by the way, I once met Roberto de Mattei at the Angelicum in Rome, bumped into him. And he said that he had read Infiltration and thought it was well written. And for me, Roberto de Mattei is probably the greatest Catholic historian, writer of our time. So to hear that for me was one of my high points as a author. I've been reading his book, St. Pius V. I'm going to pause and try to cough real quick. Just a moment. All right, I muted and came back. One of the things Roberto de Mattei does in the first part of the book is he goes over the pontificates of several popes, Renaissance popes, leading up into the Council of Trent and the pontificate of St. Pius V, which was after Trent. As I was reading this, I was comparing the papacies and the movements and the scandals and the controversies and the fights of that time, the Renaissance, to our time. And you see that the papacy is politicized. Papacy is often used to make war against the Florentines. Back and forth struggles with the Holy Roman Empire. Controversy over bishops. And then as you get into Leo X, controversies over the Protestant Reformation. And there were cardinals. I was reminded as I read this, excuse me, there were cardinals like Cardinal Pole and Cardinal Morone who wanted to make concessions to the Protestants. They said, let's have married priests. Let's offer both the body and blood, which was not customary at that time. Cardinal Pole held to a view of double justification, which was sort of a Lutheran version mixed with the Catholic version. And both these men, Cardinal Pole and Cardinal Moroni, were almost elected in papal conclaves. Other cardinals stood up and said, we can't elect these men. They're too soft on Protestantism. They're too accommodating. And it reminded me that these struggles and these temptations to accommodate with the times, to politicize the papacy, to make concessions for the sake of money, for political support, all of these things have happened in the past. And they've happened repeatedly over the history of the church. Not that that's assuring, but it helps put things in context. And as I was reading through the book, you realize that Catholicism, the Catholic Church, is safeguarded. There is a protection on it. There are tides, there are movements, but the Catholic Church always moves forward protected. And when things look lost, when you have bad leadership or bad cardinals or, politics entering into things, it begins to shake out. There is it's the presence of the Holy Spirit working through the church. And as I talked about in my book, Infiltration, the Catholic Church has an immune system. This is why I called the book Infiltration, not Corruption, because the Catholic Church herself cannot be corrupted. But there is infiltration of wolves in sheep's clothing. There are false brethren, false prophets. They infiltrate in, but they are not ultimately the Catholic Church. And the Catholic Church has an immune system to expel the wolves. And I think we're starting to see the immune system activate. It's, of course, the immune system's always active. But I think we're now starting to see that there is great momentum, great numbers, great zeal. And, after COVID, 2020, 2021, there was this explosion of interest in the traditional Latin Mass. Why? Because of live streaming masses. All right. People couldn't go to Mass. They were told to live stream Mass. And when they live stream Mass, they started being exposed, not to just their parish, St. John's in the suburbs or wherever they go. They started seeing Masses live streamed all over the country, all over the world. And they also saw the traditional Latin Mass. And there's great awareness that the old liturgy exists and that there's beauty and there's reverence and there's Gregorian chant and there are altar rails and there's ad orientem and altar boys and solid preaching. It sort of awakened everyone. And I think the panic button was 2021, Traditionis Custodes. We got to stop this. And here we are 4 years later, and it's still rolling. It's still rolling. So I'm greatly encouraged by it. I don't think it's total victory. Obviously, I don't think anyone's going to say it's total victory. But the fact that it was allowed to happen, there's been no pilgrimage group or even national group that has had this much attendance, visibility, and none of it was nasty. None of it was mean. No one was wagging their finger. Everyone was there, humble, praying, receiving the body of Christ, kneeling on the floors of St. Peter's Basilica. No kneelers. Just love this photo. A young family. That's the future. Maybe that little baby right there with his mother, maybe that baby is a future pope. Maybe that baby is the pope in 60 years. Could be. Hope so. Maybe that baby will be a priest and will be the baby that gives you last rites before you close your eyes in death. But I think this is This is a powerful moment, and I think we should rejoice. I think we take the win, guys. Take the win. It's awesome. I have a few announcements. I am saving my voice because tonight I have a webinar. We were going to do it last Tuesday, and I was just too sick. I couldn't speak. So we have transferred the webinar, and the webinar is, I'll put it on the screen for you, Angels and Demons, 9 Secrets Exorcists Want You to Know. We had like 8,000 people sign up for this webinar. And I'd love to invite you. We are doing it tonight at 7 p.m. Central. There's a link in the show notes here on YouTube. Go below there, click on it. It's totally free, but you have to reserve your spot. And I'm going to go over briefly angels and demons, but I'm also going to go over what exorcists want you to know as a Catholic. We often, are interested in exorcists because they talk about the problem of exorcism and how to get the demons out of people. But exorcists want you to know what to do and how to live and what sacramentals to use and how to pray so that you don't find yourself in the position of demonic obsession, possession, or even demonic influence. How do you protect yourself? So the webinar tonight is going to be at 7 p.m. Please save your spot. You can register by clicking the link here on YouTube in the show notes below. Please register your spot. What is a Catholic webinar? A Catholic webinar is just like a YouTube video like this, but I'm going to be giving you a prayer book of powerful prayers of spiritual protection to Jesus Christ, the Blessed Virgin Mary, St. Michael the Archangel. These are very important. And so I'll be giving everyone who attends tonight that free book. It's a little prayer book for spiritual protection for yourself, for your family, for your children. And then we'll be going over what exorcists want you to know in relationship to angels and demons. So if you have signed up, since we moved it from last Tuesday to this Tuesday, when we moved it, not everyone got shifted over. So if you signed up and you think you've signed up, you may not have your spot reserved. So I'd encourage you, go to the show notes, click the registration page, hit register, and go ahead and register again, just in case. Because when we transferred it, we lost some people. So it'll be great. Our Catholic webinars are fire, excitement, lots of people, hundreds, sometimes thousands and thousands of Catholics, all encouraging each other, praying together, getting free resources, and me presenting on this topic, which will be from a Thomistic Catholic point of view. So register for the webinar. What else before I'm going to show you the video of, speaking of exorcisms, I'm going to show you the video of the Cardinal praying the exorcism over St. Peter's Basilica, the Vatican. We'll do that shortly. But before I do, I also want to remind everyone that we have our big pilgrimage coming up. And if you'd like to kick off Lent in Rome, please join me for a pilgrimage that I'll be leading. It's a traditional Latin Mass pilgrimage, and we have an amazing agenda. We'll be going to, of course, St. Peter's. We'll be going to the Vatican Museum. We'll be going to the 4 major archbasilicas. We'll be having traditional Latin Mass every day. On St. Valentine's Day, we'll be at the Skull of St. Valentine. It'll be a romantic day with the real St. Valentine right there. We'll be going to see Padre Pio and Monte San Angelo, Lanciano, Eucharistic Miracle, Our Lady of Loreto, the Holy House at Loreto. We'll go to Assisi, St. Francis Basilica, St. Clare, also St. Carlo Acutis. And if you want to stay on with us and keep going, we'll be going to Florence and to Venice. It's going to be an amazing pilgrimage. If you want to reserve your spot, it will sell out. Our pilgrimages do sell out. Go to taylormarshall.com/Rome, ROME, taylormarshall.com/Rome, and reserve your spot on this pilgrimage. We will be there for Ash Wednesday. I believe we'll be in Assisi, where St. Francis is, the great penitent of the Catholic Church. We'll be kicking off our Lent on Ash Wednesday with St. Francis in Assisi. So if you want to begin your Lent in Rome, traditional Latin Masses, rosary every day. Please join us. Again, go to taylormarshall.com/Rome. Reserve your spot on the pilgrimage. All right, let's go to this. I'll do some comments and super chats. I want to share with you this exorcism. Speaking of exorcism, our webinar tonight is on exorcism. Here is the Cardinal. Let me get all of his information correct. I believe his name is Simone. You see here. Cardinal Ernest Simone, 97, viciously persecuted from the Albanian church, from the Catholic Church in Albania. Here is the prayer with subtitles. Let's go. We beseech the God of peace to crush Satan under his feet. That he may no more be able to hold men captive and to harm the church. Offer our prayers in the sight of the Most High. By the way, just look at all those priests. That's amazing. The Cardinal goes on to say, so that the mercies of the Lord may quickly come to our aid. That thou mayest seize the dragon, the ancient serpent, who is the devil and Satan. We cast you out, every unclean spirit, every satanic power, every onslaught of the infernal adversary, every legion, every diabolical group and sect. That's interesting. Not just the demons, but every diabolical group and sect. In the name and by the power of our Lord Jesus Christ. There it is. So not only did we have the traditional pontifical high mass at the chair at St. Peter's Basilica, we also had one of the oldest and most eminent cardinals, Cardinal Simone, age 97, a persecuted bishop of the Catholic Church, persecuted under communism, surrounded by Catholic priests in St. Peter's, casting out our ancient enemy, the infernal dragon, and the demons, and every demonic sect and group. This, I'll tell you right now, this is a win. This is important because I'm of the opinion that some bad things have happened in Rome. And Pope Leo XIII, at the turn of the century, before the turn of the century, he saw demons descending on the eternal city. This is why Pope Leo XIII wrote the St. Michael prayer. He wrote two different St. Michael prayers, the long and the short. He also wrote an exorcism. Because what he saw was that for the next, there's different accounts, for the next period in the church, there would be a great war in the church. And that Satan would be permitted to make a war against the Catholic Church. And so we've seen some compromises. And so to see a sainted elder, cardinal, casting out the devil on the floor of St. Peter's, surrounded by so many priests and by Cardinal Burke, with the holy sacrifice of the Mass, this is a very powerful moment in the history of the Catholic Church. Not everything is sound bites. Not everything is about the latest something from the Synod of Synodality. As we'll learn tonight in our webinar, our enemies are not really flesh and blood. Our enemies are the spiritual demonic principalities. They're watching you, they're watching me, they're hunting us like coyotes. They're looking for who is the weakest, who is the maimed, who is distracted. Where can they get an inroad? Where can they infiltrate into the herd? And here the cardinal is driving them away, like a shepherd should do, driving away the wolves. And you drive them away through exorcism, sacraments. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight, by the way. You should come to the webinar. Make sure you sign up. Click the link below. How do you keep the coyotes away from you and your family? How do you stay safe? Exorcists tell us what to do. We'll be covering that tonight in the webinar. Make sure you signed up, 7 p.m. Central. It's going to be awesome. And I've got a prayer book that I'm going to give all of you with these protective prayers that we should be praying. All right. Ancient, beautiful Catholic prayers to Christ, Our Lady, St. Michael, St. Joseph, etc. So make sure you signed up for that. All right, I'm going to go to your comments and questions, and I'll go as long as I can. As you can tell, my voice is weakening, and I need to save it for tonight. So I'll do some of these super chats, and we'll jump right into it. Before that, I just realized I do need to honor today's sponsor, and that is Birch Gold. Lots of stuff going on in the financial world. Gold is at all-time highs. It's a great hedge against inflation, and it's a great way to protect your assets and protect your savings. So if you'd like to convert part or all or some of your 401k, your IRA, Birch Gold can help you do that. They have a free information kit. Just get your phone out and text the number 989898, and then just text the word Taylor, and they will send you this free gold information kit. They have all kinds of promotions going. And again, this is no obligation, but it is a great way to educate yourself on precious metals, not just gold, but also silver. Our family is invested in precious metals for years, and we're glad we did, because you look over time and you're like, that was a great idea. That was a great investment. And I encourage you to learn more as well. So just text my name, Taylor, to 989898, or click the link in the show notes. All right, I'm going to jump over now to your chats and see what you guys have to say. GLF Coast, Florida. We haven't had the Latin Mass in our parish since the 70s. We just got a new pastor, and he's open to having one Mass each weekend. The bishop only said to start slow. We are hopeful. That's great. That's how it always starts. Very happy to hear this. Joshua Schaefer, somewhat off topic. Have you heard of the great French monarch prophecy? The man who's supposed to take the throne just became public. LifeSite 1017. I'm not sure that is the man, but I am aware of the great French monarch prophecy, and I cover it in full with private revelations and Catholic tradition on the great Catholic monarch in my book, Antichrist and Apocalypse, which is a Catholic commentary on the book of Revelation and approved private revelation. So if you're interested in Catholic eschatology, if you're interested in end times and all you've ever gotten is Protestant version of the end times, you need to forget all that, and you need to look at what the church fathers and the popes and the approved mystics have said about the book of Revelation. And I do all of that for you in this #1 best-selling book, Antichrist and Apocalypse. And yes, there's a section in there on the great French monarch, which I do believe in, and you can learn more in the book. Great question, Joshua. Thank you. Thank you for the super sticker from Truckley. Buddy Carr, I hope for Rome to return to tradition. I believe that the SSPX will have a major hand in getting things back in order when that time comes. I mean, I'm obviously sympathetic and have talked about this a lot, but we have to realize, I heard Michael Matt say this. We were giving presentations in Rome, and I think it was 2019. Michael Matt said, the problems that we have got in have to do with the papacy, and getting out of the problems have to do with the papacy, right? The papacy is a gift from Jesus Christ. And even though we've had popes who have, Benedict IX was a real character, buying and selling the papacy. He was pope 3 times, coming and going. Look him up on Wikipedia, Benedict IX, What a character. That was a big problem. Popes, anti-popes, simony, clerical marriage, heresies infiltrating. But you get, as I was talking about earlier, you get to a pope like Pope St. Pius V or Pope St. Pius X or Gregory VII, St. Gregory VII. All this chaos, they step onto the stage, and the amount of cleanup and the amount of sanctity and the amount of reform and beauty that happens when these popes show up in history. And it's not all the time. It's actually somewhat rare. And to see great moments in the church where she lunges ahead with the gospel and makes major gains for souls, you know, that ultimately is what we need to be praying for. You know, I earnestly, in my illness, when I couldn't breathe and I had pneumonia, I was like, help Pope Leo. Guide Pope Leo. Illuminate Pope Leo. The SSPX, I think, has played a role. It's important, but you know, you have to realize that there are entire nations in the world that have zero access. There are people watching right now that have zero access, right? We're talking about something universal, something Catholic. Yes, they play a role, but at the end of the day, like a moment when Pope Benedict XVI says every priest of the Roman Rite can say the traditional Latin Mass, that's a major moment. When Pope Francis takes it away, that's a major moment in the other direction. I think Pope Leo is going to see this, and he's going to have to consider it. Perpetual Traditionis Custodes is not going to be a winning solution. It has too much strength. It has too many young people. It has too many clergy. It has bishops behind it. It has cardinals. This is not a, you know, fringe, strange, tiny sliver group. We are 60 years later, and we're still having this conversation. So thanks for your super chat. I agree with you, but I think there's so much more to it. Do you have a comment on triumph of the something battle of the Exorcist? Not aware of it. I'd love to learn more. Great. Well, I'm going to save my voice. It's teetering, and I have an amazing webinar that I'm going to be presenting to y'all tonight at 7 p.m. Central. So I want you to click the link in the show notes. The name of tonight's webinar is Angels and Demons, 9 Secrets Exorcists Want You to Know. We'll talk about spiritual warfare. We'll talk about prayers against the demonic, what is allowed, what is not allowed, warnings from saints about infiltration in the Catholic Church, and how we keep close to Jesus, his Sacred Heart, the Immaculate Heart of Mary, etc. I'd love for you to be there. I have been working so hard on this for weeks and wanted to do it last Tuesday. I'm delaying it, saving my strength, and I'm going to give everything. I'm going to leave everything on the field tonight. I'm going to give you everything I got. So please sign up for the webinar. I'll be honored if you'll join us. Hopefully we'll have thousands of people in there, and we'll talk about angels, demons, and what exorcists want you to know. Pray your rosary every single day. If you're watching this, you've never been to a traditional Latin Mass, I'd encourage you, if you can find one near you, go to the traditional Latin Mass. It'll be a little confusing for you the first time, and that's totally okay. I always challenge people to go 4 times to the traditional Latin Mass. After your 4th time, you'll start to say, I'm starting to understand what's going on here. This is excellent. I'm getting this. This is great. That's my 4th traditional Latin Mass TLM challenge. Pray your rosary every day. Stay close to the Sacred Heart. Pray for the Pope. And until next time, remember, our Lord Jesus Christ says, you're the light of the world and the salt of the earth. So go out there and be salty. God bless, Godspeed. Pray for my lungs, my chest, and we'll see you soon, hopefully, and see you tonight at the webinar.